morning. My name is Corporal Castañeda, and today I will be conducting a presentation on accountability and leadership. The purpose of this presentation is to learn the meaning of accountability as well as the effects that it has on team building and operational cohesion. So I wanted to start off this presentation by providing the definition of accountability according to the Department of Defense. And so this is what they have to say about what accountability is. Accountability is the obligation imposed by law or lawful order on an officer or other person for keeping accurate record of property, documents, or funds. Now, I wanted to present this definition because I think it's important that we all know exactly what the Department of Defense and the Army mean by the word accountability. And I think this is what we all as soldiers conclude when we hear accountability. So what is it that we think of when we hear this word? So the first thing that I think of when I hear the word accountability is personal equipment. So throughout our entire career, we are taught that we need to keep accountability of our personal equipment, TA50, and if we don't do that, then we're gonna get charged for it, and there's always negative actions for losing personal equipment. The next thing that comes to mind as well is personnel, and that is another big part of accountability in the military. We are always making sure that we have an accurate count on our soldiers, how many people we have, boots on ground, and making sure we don't have anybody AWOL. And another thing that we usually really worry about when it comes to accountability is sensitive items, and that's our weapons, MVGs, vehicles, any other kind of sensitive equipment that we really worry about in the military and we consider accountability. And so, again, we all know what these things are, and we know that accountability means for us to keep count. And like that definition said, it means, property, funds, money. And while all of those things are important for accountability, today's presentation is not going to focus on these three things. Rather, I want to speak about the effects of accountability, how they affect our organization, and what a leader can do to use accountability in a positive manner. So we are going to be talking about trust, safety, and control of actions. Now, this quote I got from the research that I was doing when writing our paper, and this is Smith 2014, and he states that trust provides mental clarity to emotionally or morally ambiguous situations, particularly in battle where the fog of war can have lethal consequences. Now, I found this quote very enlightening and very true because we are in a profession where we lose lives, and therefore everything that we do comes down to our trust. How much we trust our peers, how much we trust our subordinates, how much we trust our leadership. And when there is a lack of accountability, it has a domino effect on soldiers. And soldiers tend to lose their ability to trust their leadership and start acting careless or start feeling like they don't matter or what they do doesn't matter, breaking that trust. And when we are downrange, that is something that we can't afford, because if we don't trust our peers, then we can lose lives. So it is very important as a leader to have accountability of your troops, keep them all have consequences for their actions, and make sure that they are all held to the same standard as well as yourself. So there is consequences, positive and negative, to what they do, so that they can trust you as a leader whenever you make decisions that affect them. And it goes back to our peace of mind, our mental clarity, and our operational cohesion. And this goes as well for civilian side, members of the U.S. trust us as an organization to keep each other safe. The next thing that we're going to be talking about is safety in the military. And this is another quote that I found is directly from the Department of the Army. And it states that the objective of safety is to help units protect combat power through accident prevention, which enables units to fight rapidly and decisively with minimum losses. Now, when I was writing my essay, this quote, I read it multiple times because I wanted to understand why this meant safety. And what I came back to every single time was combat power, to protect combat power, to enable us to fight rapidly and decisively. And I started doing some research on that, and I found an excellent study that says that 25%, only 25% of the deaths in the military happen during combat operations. And that actually, I felt like it was a great number. 25% shows that what we're doing is effective, that the regulations that we have, that our SOPs, everything that we put in order to make sure that our troops are safe is actually working and is effective. But then I kept thinking about the other 75% and where that 75% is coming from. And in that same study, I found these numbers. And this is just for active duty military. But the deaths that occurred, 75% of the deaths that occurred in the military, in active duty Army 2006 to 2021, were not in combat operations. So 75% of the soldiers that died were not happening in a combat operation zone. And 31.8% were accidents and 24.8% were self-inflicted. So 75% is a big number. And I feel like that falls back on our leadership. So just how we are so effective when we go to a combat zone. We're not carrying over that effectiveness and our safety when we get back to garrison. And as a leader, I believe that it is our job to promote safety by being accountable of our soldiers. And I feel like this is an area that we truly lack, because we tend to slack off when we come back home. Like we're home, we tend to ease a little bit and not be in high alert. And that's how we lose soldiers. And I can put, for example, I know in the National Guard, in 2019, we had a safety stand down because we lost soldiers in a rollover. And the soldiers, the vehicle wasn't dispatched. The vehicle that rollover was not dispatched. And the soldiers that died were not licensed in vehicles. And this is not the first time that this happens in the National Guard. I mean, I think it was in 2017, we had soldiers that died and they were not wearing their gear. So what does that tell us about safety back in garrison? That those accidents that we're having are because we are laid back as leaders. We're not holding our soldiers accountable for their actions, and it's leading to deaths. And when it goes to self-inflicted, we're not following through with our soldiers and checking on them mentally, physically, and emotionally to see if they're okay when we come back. I mean, most of these soldiers, when they go on a mission and come back, they are dealing with PTSD and, the separation from families. And if we're not aware of that, if we're not servant leaders, we're not really realizing that our soldiers are not safe. And because we're not being accountable, we're losing soldiers to us not promoting safety, not only in garrison, not only in combat operations, but also when we get back home. So that is another part where I feel that accountability is important as a leader. Safety of our soldiers. The last part that we're going to talk about, the next topic, is taking control of our actions. So taking control of our actions is important as leaders because basically when we are accountable for our own actions, and we promote that for our soldiers. And when we do, they do. When we have toxic leaderships, leaders that are arrogant irresponsible, they lack integrity, and are discouraging, we kind of mirror that, we reflect that for our soldiers. And when they don't know what the guidelines are, when they don't know if you break a rule or they broke a rule and nobody does anything about it, then they have no need to take control of their actions. So it is very important as a leader that we don't have these traits, so that we are, again, servant leaders, so we don't promote low morale, uncertainty, distrust, and poor development of values in our soldiers, as well as lack of participation. The one that matters most to me is the poor development of values. As a leader, we have so many soldiers in our hands that are very young, and if we don't teach them wrong from right, then they really don't have a baseline to go from. And so therefore it is our job as a leader to take control of our actions, to hold ourselves accountable and help hold them accountable of their actions as well. So in summary, today we spoke about accountability and the leadership. So how accountability affects trust, safety, and the ability for a person to take control of their actions. How as leaders, we should be able to promote all of these three things while being accountable. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, and these are all my references, and that concludes my presentation. If you didn't get anything from this presentation today, all I want to say is to be mindful of who you are as a leader and make sure that you don't focus too much on, the task at hand, the mission, but also consider and always keep in the back of your mind that your soldiers are human and that they're going to have good days, they're going to have bad days. But most importantly, that you as a leader have the responsibility of building trust, building safety, and building the ability for them to take action and to control their own actions by how you are accountable for them.